All these faces here have been caught because of Crimewatch viewers, and tonight we show you how.
First, the power of CCTV. There are now control rooms like this one up and down the country monitoring thousands of cameras. Take a look at this to see how powerful they can be. This is a nightclub in Doncaster in October 1999.
I was just out celebrating a friend's birthday with a group of friends.
But as he left, it was a firebomb.
I was just coming out the door, heard a large bang, and looked down and my legs were on fire, so I just basically panicked, ran across the street trying to put them out.
We believe that there was an altercation within the club, but as far as the investigation went, we have no real idea what actually took place.
CCTV held the answer. Look at this man, angry and abusive to the doorman, before catching up with his friend and heading out of frame. But Doncaster is one of the towns that's really covered by cameras.
We then see the offenders in various positions throughout the town. They are then tracked as they walk onto a 24-hour filling station. At the filling station, they are actually seen to purchase the component parts of the petrol bomb. The petrol can, a pound's worth of petrol, a bottle of milk and a pack of paper tissues. We then track them as they walk through the town. They are now holding a bottle which no longer contains milk, and it's clearly seen to contain some other liquid.
But who were they? DC Oliver contacted Crimewatch.
The information came in two forms really. Names were given for one of the offenders and then a nickname was given, and through further investigations this then led us to the second offender.
There were 800 people in the club when the bomb was thrown, and Graham Bergin was just unlucky to get hit. Paul Mackenzie and Mark Jackson pleaded guilty to arson, recklessly endangering life, and assault. Paul Mackenzie got 6 years, Mark Jackson 5.
Whenever someone's jumped bail, the police's priority is to find them and bring them to justice as soon as possible, sometimes in the strangest circumstances.
We'd come down with two friends, Chris and Carl. First time I've actually ever been here. Had a few more drinks, had a dance. When it got to about 1:30 to 2 o'clock-ish, decided we'd have nothing to go home.
Well, I'm ready to go now anyway.
Just as we were about halfway up the road, we was collared by 3 blokes that was actually in the pub that night.
Right! Right! Where do you think you're going, like? Come here. Yeah, you! I am talking to you. Where do you think you're going? Where are you going?
We don't want any trouble.
Then. Yeah, come on.
Hey, we don't want any trouble.
Ah! Yeah.
Hey, leave him.
And that's put my hand to my throat, was trickling coming down my arm. And as I let go, there was just blood pouring everywhere. I decided to run back into the pub to get help.
Paul came into the bar, very ashen-faced. So I went straight round. Let's have a look. Moved his hand away, realised that his throat had a big gaping hole in it. Grabbed a handful of towels off the bar, put them to his throat, and basically laid him down with his head tucked forward, so the one wasn't open with his neck up.
I was terrified, I was scared, I thought I was going to die. Didn't know what to think really, I thought that was it, I thought it was over.
Excuse me, lads. What? I've got to ask you to come back into the club with me. What for? I'm done out. When are you back in club? You what? I'm done out. What do you want? What for? Mate, please.
With there being 3 of us and 3 of them, I don't think it'd have been worth their while for them to do a runner, to be honest with you.
Stay there, fellas. Come on through, girls.
Good night, mate. Thanks.
Good night. Good night. Good night. See you next week, girls. Good night, girls. Good night.
Yeah. See you, girls. Bye.
I couldn't have asked for better, to be honest. We had everything. We had the doormen who've done their job.
See you, girls. Good night.
We'd recovered the knife, we'd preserved the scene, we'd got forensics from the scene, and we had the prisoner and the witnesses. He subsequently attended an identification parade and was picked out by a number of people. And then just before he was due to go for trial the following year, he failed to appear at court.
I was upset that he got bail. I mean, basically he shouldn't have been out on the street. For what he done anyway.
We have a lot of contacts within West Yorkshire, but when you go outside of West Yorkshire, you're on foreign territory really, and we really needed some help to try and trace Mr Noble.
This is Simon Noble. He's wanted in connection with an incident outside a Bradford nightclub in which Paul Murphy's throat was cut. Fortunately, Paul survived, although badly scarred. Now, please don't approach him, but call...
There were a couple of calls that we got that stated he was in the Blackpool area. He was going to be at a certain premises at a certain time on a certain date, and we acted according to that.
You are now therefore husband and wife together. You may kiss the bride.
Simon Noble, I'm arresting you on suspicion of wounding Paul Murphy.
Oh, come on, it's my wedding night.
We're not arguing, stand back now. Leave it. Sort it out now. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Bye.
All right.
Simon Noble was taken away very quickly, and we then explained to the family what was happening, and we just left them in a state of confusion.
You know what about
You arrest them as and where you can, can't you? Nobody's above justice, are they? Even on your wedding day or not.
Be all right. Step away. Move away. Oh, come on, mate. Just drive off, will you?
Come on,
You're going to do it. Just get going.
Oh, he's very upset. Can't you just leave him with us?
Simon Noble was convicted of grievous bodily harm and sentenced to 8 years.
Coming up, a terrifying road rage.
Open the door. Open the bloody door!
The bank robber who tried to cheat the CCTV and failed.
Gloves off, into the bin.
And the hat now.
Yeah.
He's bald.
And remember, the sex attacker with a scar on his stomach will tell you who he is.
You do me a favour, could you lift your T-shirt up for me?
Tonight's not just about solved cases. It's also a way of saying thank you in other ways on still unsolved cases. Crimewatch shows the worst in people, but it also brings out the very best. What sort of thief targets the very elderly?
Oh, hello there.
Are you the gasman?
Your thermostat's broken. You're going to need a new one. OK. Cheers, mate.
How much is it going to cost me then?
£250.
Since she didn't have that sort of money, he kindly said he'd drive her to a cash point.
Cheers. I'll go into Newport, be back in the afternoon.
And that was the last she saw of him. A week later, and for his next victim, he had an accomplice.
Hello there. I've been doing some work on a roof up the road, and I couldn't help but notice you've got a few tiles off your roof. I could do the work for you.
How much would that cost me?
Well, it's going to be about £400.
That's a bit excessive, isn't it? Could you do a cheque first?
Yeah, right. We've done the repairs. We just need to get up into the roof to check them.
But I didn't ask you to do the repairs. I asked you just to check them. So how much is that going to cost me?
Wow. I can't do it for less than 180?
Oh, all right then, all right.
I'm not a foolish person, I hope not, anyway. I thought they were honest, and I thought they were proper working people.
Oh, you've left muddy footsteps on my carpet.
Oh, yeah. Have you got some newspaper to clean up the mess?
Oh, they must have been very cool people. Very cool, and they must have done it before.
Oh, cheers. Would it be possible to have the payment now?
Oh, they were so calm. I can't believe how calm they were.
I'd like a receipt.
Oh, you don't have to worry about that. We can write the receipt out in the van.
Oh, yeah.
It happened so quickly, it was like lightning. I can't believe how quick it happened. I knew something had happened. These princes, they were in the bedroom. Why should they want to go across the bedroom?
They had found and taken her life savings of £16,000.
Well, they were very unfair, weren't they, to have done that after I had paid them that £180.
After Crimewatch, there were dozens of calls to help, but many more offered donations for that lady. Fivers from children to one gift of £1,000. So far, she's received over £5,000. She dropped me a note to say, please thank your viewers. Sadly, though, this man has not been caught. Who is he? On this or any other crime you can help with, call Crime Stoppers, 0800 555 111.
One of the other crimes that struck a chord with Crimewatch viewers was a murder in Worthing on the Sussex coast. In fact, you may remember the name of the victim, Jean Barnes. Jean Barnes had lived in this house since the 1950s when she was a civil servant. She was a Cambridge graduate, fluent in 5 languages. Tragically, the man she'd hoped to marry was killed in the Second World War, and after her parents died, she became a bit of a recluse and lived among the memories.
She was a very clever person and extremely bright. She was not senile in any shape or form. She knew exactly what was happening in the world.
University has awarded the Bulwer-Lytton Prize.
With my sight being a problem, she would often ring me up and she would read me the bits in the paper, which was very nice of her.
In fact, the neighbours would call each other regularly just to check they were okay.
Hello, Nan. Yes, I'm fine. And you? Good.
Between January and June of 1999, Miss Barnes reported a series of minor thefts.
Is that the police? Yes, it's Jean Barnes here. I'm sorry to bother you again, but a picture's now gone. It's gone clean off my wall. It was a lovely picture.
The officers that attended couldn't find any forced entry. Naturally, the crime prevention officer went round and she changed her locks and took other security precautions.
More ominously, she was surprised on her doorstep and physically assaulted while putting out the milk one morning.
I suddenly felt he was grabbing me on the arm. Suddenly, I don't know, he was hiding in the bushes or something.
Do you know what he was trying to do to you? Was he trying to sort of attack you, or was
I don't know.
Okay.
But funny things have been happening. It's very, very frightening.
Right.
In April, she had a very strange phone call from a man. He pretended to be from her bank and asked very personal details about her date of birth and that sort of thing.
He wanted to know my age and my account number, and he asked me a lot of personal questions.
Then in May, she had a credit card and a bank card arrive from the Alliance Leicester and from Barclaycard. She hadn't ordered those.
But could you please find out what's going on? Oh, and I can't find my barometer anywhere.
In July, her neighbour, Mrs. Woolven, went on holiday. While she was away, Miss Barnes' milk was taken in, as were her papers and letters, though no one saw Jean herself. When Mrs. Woolven returned, she rang her friend, but there was no answer.
If she was watching the proms or the tennis or something that she was really interested in, she didn't always answer the phone.
So Mrs. Woolven tried again next day.
And that's when I began to get worried, and then I rang the police.
2 officers broke in and found a body covered in a blanket. The house was cordoned off, and within an hour forensic experts were called in. Miss Barnes had been attacked and battered on the head 9 or 10 times. She'd been lying there for days, maybe weeks.
I did say to the policeman, I felt awful thinking possibly she had been lying there a long time and no one finding her. Honestly, my breath just went. I just couldn't get my breath.
A few days later, the local milkman came forward with a note he'd found on Miss Barnes' doorstep. He'd thrown it away at the time, but found it again when he rummaged through his bin.
This letter said that Miss Barnes was going into a nursing home, she wanted to cease deliveries, and could the milkman leave the final bill. He'd left the bill and it had been paid by a cheque.
Both the cheque and the note were dated after Miss Barnes' death.
So the note from the milkman was the first time that we knew that someone had been targeting her and had written the note to cover up the murder, as we later discovered, not only to cover up the murder, but to continue to steal from the house, even though her body lay there.
Then another piece to the jigsaw, a bill from Seaboard Electricity. The envelope had been torn in half and matched the note found by the milkman. But more intriguing, the electricity bill had been paid. So 3 samples of handwriting, none written by Miss Barnes. Who did write them? Steve Scott, who is here, has got this letter, again the back of this envelope, which is addressed to the milkman. Look at the G there, which doesn't have a tail on it, whereas the Y does, and that's typical. None of the G's have a tail. And something else that you might see here.
Hello. My name is Mrs. Ridpath. I think I recognise the writing.
This letter came up and I was astonished to see something that I thought I'd seen before, or something very similar.
She could remember using a handyman some 4 years previously, David Munley, and not only had he done work for her, but he'd done work for an elderly neighbour.
And Mrs. Ridpath had good reason to recall that handwriting, because the neighbour had been defrauded by David Munley.
Well, this was the breakthrough, really, because not only did we have somebody that had targeted an elderly person in Worthing before, with cheques and bogus handwriting, but the key words on that letter, going into a nursing home.
What's more, he lived here, just 200 yards from Miss Jean Barnes.
Did you write it?
No.
Have you handled it?
No.
Did you sign the entry?
No.
J.H. Barnes.
He totally denied any involvement in the murder. He denied knowing Miss Barnes. He denied ever being in Miss Barnes's house or having anything to do with her whatsoever.
Despite Munley's convincing denials, the evidence from his own home soon became compelling.
They lifted up the loose floorboard, and underneath there was Jean Barnes's membership card for the civil service. And so we had property from her, an understairs cupboard under the floorboards at his flat. While he was in custody, 2 antique dealers came forward to say that they'd heard that he'd been arrested and that they had been buying antiques from him, paintings and a barometer.
So,
So you still got the old barometer then?
well, yes, got the barometer because it doesn't actually work.
The story he told me was that his aunt had passed away and she lived up in Norfolk or Suffolk, and he and his brother were actually clearing out the property and bringing it all down here to sort out and sell.
When we looked at the paintings, they had stickers on them that were 100 years old in Miss Barnes's mother's maiden name, and we had property back in the house which had rickets and the same sticker from this removal company in Manchester. So we were very, very pleased with what the antique dealers were telling us.
Then, conclusively, a tissue found at the scene of the murder came back from the labs with Munley's DNA, and a footprint in the hall matched his shoe.
David Munley, you are charged that you, between the 1st of July 1999 and the 26th of July 1999, at 9 Tennyson Road, Worthing, in the county of West Sussex, murdered Jean Helena Barnes, contrary to common law. Do you wish to apply to that charge?
Yes, I did not murder Jean Barnes.
In December, with overwhelming evidence against him, David Munley was convicted of the murder. But he has never admitted his guilt.
He was a very evil man. He broke into an elderly lady's house. He knew that she lived alone. He battered her to death. He covered up her body, and then he continued to steal from the house.
Coming up, we reveal the man who may hold the key to one of the most notorious unsolved crimes, the murder of estate agent Susie Lamplugh.
And we meet the boy who lost a hand and was blinded in a bomb blast for which no one can find a motive.
Sometimes on Crime Watch Night, it's really hard to tell how good the information is coming in from your calls. In this next case, when 3 people rang in giving the same name, we knew we were onto a winner. 2 girls had been hogging the outside lane of the A1M, and the driver behind was getting angry.
I know. What's the matter? What's wrong? Oh, it's just some bloke in the car behind. He keeps flashing me. An idiot.
As the girls pulled off the motorway onto the slip road, he pulled in front of them and jammed on his brakes.
Are you all right? What's he doing?
I was panicking to try and start the car and get moving.
Lock the door!
I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. There was no chance of us like trying to defend ourselves really because he was so big.
Open the door. Open the bloody door! You're gonna kill me, Jordan!
Get the registration! Get the registration! Hello, police? Yeah, we've just been attacked on the motorway.
They got a partial number and compiled an EFIT. 3 Crime Watch viewers named Joseph Wardby. He was convicted of common assault and criminal damage and was sentenced to 3 months. We've seen what happened on the reconstruction. It must have been very strange to see yourself and see it. Did it bring it all back to you?
Yes, it did. It wasn't a happy experience, but you know, he's been caught. That's the main thing.
And what effect did the whole thing, did the incident have on you afterwards?
Still don't make a very good passenger in a car. Get upset very easily, very nervous, and any loud noises even just make me cry.
And do you drive?
I don't drive.
Are you ever going to drive?
No.
Because of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how did you feel when eventually you got to court, he got to court, and he was sent down for this?
If he hadn't have been caught, I wouldn't have been able to put this behind me. It's given me a sense of closure on it, so it's good. He got what he deserved.
This year, as always, we covered high-profile murders like Damilola Taylor and Sarah Payne. In fact, we still need your help on a case that's rarely been out of the news since it happened 15 years ago. The disappearance of the estate agent, Susie Lamplugh. Last summer, we showed this picture of Susie, the first appeal to point out how she'd looked when she disappeared. For 14 years, people thought she had dark hair, but the highlights substantially changed her appearance. Her new look brought back into focus sightings that earlier had been dismissed and raised new hopes of finding the man who'd asked to see houses with Susie, the mysterious Mr. Kipper. Now we've another name, this time not a suspect at all, in fact far from it. He may be the witness who holds the key to what happened. The name is David Tucker. Now of course there'll be many David Tuckers, but this one was in the Bristol area between 1988 and 1989. And I repeat, in no way, David, are you a suspect. On the contrary, please come forward. Detectives want to speak to you as a really important witness in this case. Diana Lamplugh, you've lived with this for so long now. How's the family been coping with this whole new investigation?
Well, the last few months have really been incredibly difficult for me. It's like hell on earth, really. I didn't know that I'd find it so difficult. I didn't know that somehow I thought that when I got used to it in a way. But it's done a remarkable thing for the sisters and brother of Susie, because I think at last she feels that the police have done everything they possibly could, and they're doing everything they possibly could. And that has allowed them to go on with their life.
You've lived with this for so long. It's been so tantalising at times, with it looking like there could be a prosecution and then it's faded away, looking like they might find Susie and then it hasn't happened. It's not an easy thing to live with.
No, it isn't. It's very difficult indeed. It's very tough. And I do mind, and it does affect me enormously. I was talking about this with someone the other day, and I said, you know, I really don't understand myself because it's so long ago. And he said, how do you feel now? I said, well, actually, that's worrying me too, because actually I'm feeling better, you know, because you go up and you go down, and suddenly I feel normal. And he said, well, I want you to remember, you're normal. And that was fantastic, because it was very helpful. Just feeling like that was a normal thing to do.
Well done, I hope it works out. And David Tucker, please give us a call. Or for anybody who knows David, that's the David who is in Bristol, remember? Here's the number, 0207 321 9251. That's 0207 321 9251.
We see so many brave parents on this programme who are prepared to tell us about the crimes committed against their children. Back in February, Carol Menery talked to us from her son's bedside.
They've left my son with no sight, he's blind. They left him with no hands. It's not just the physical scars, his stomach is worse than I expected, actually. And the pain he's going through.
In February, 14-year-old Stephen Menery found a torch in South Africa Road, White City, in West London.
He picked it up, he tried to turn it on, and it exploded.
This is designed to kill. No one will make a device like this. It is to maim, and it's to seriously injure and to kill.
Stephen lost a hand, his hearing in one ear, and one eye was badly damaged. Having lost the sight in the other as a child, he's now almost completely blind. Police still need your help in finding who was responsible for the bomb that maimed him. Carol, you've had a huge upheaval in your life. How are you coping with it all?
With a lot of support, a lot of help, family, friends, hospitals. Just trying to get through. That's all you have to do.
Just one day at a time?
Can't take more than one day at a time. His attitude keeps us going as well. He does get down times, down days, but overall we're lucky we're going to get through this.
Stephen, what about you? How do you feel about the fact that that device was just left there for anyone to pick up? You just happened to pick it up.
Well, I think it went... I don't know why the person would have left it there, because there's other cadets there and there's a football pitch next door where children would play. And
when you think about it, do you hate that person or those persons?
I don't really hate them, because I don't see a point in hating a person because it won't change anything. But I think it would help if the person was caught, because they could help him or her, because it's not a normal sort of thing to do by going around leaving bombs around.
I think it's extremely important that these people, person, whoever is caught. I mean, Stephen was lucky. This could have killed him.
OK, well, you heard it there. These people need to be caught. Let me just remind you, this happened on February the 21st in South Africa Road, West London. If you know anything at all, call Crime Stoppers. That number is 0800 555 111.
Here's one that did get a result, once again thanks to viewers who must have been astonished to see someone they recognised on Crimewatch. And thanks again to this stuff, CCTV. Mid-afternoon, and a robbery is about to take place in a bank in Shrewsbury.
We got the phone call at just after 3:30, letting us know that a high street bank had been robbed.
Alpha from Foxtrot 2-4. They received the first description of the suspect in the robbery at Pride Hill.
He was dressed in a pair of blue jeans with a green jacket, wearing a woolly hat and woolly gloves. We had a direction of travel from the bank, and we just scanned through the shopping centre security tape on the off chance that he'd used the centre as a route out of the town.
And he had. But he didn't leave directly.
We were looking for a man dressed in a woolly hat and gloves and a green jacket, but of course the man we really needed was totally different because he'd changed within minutes.
Centre 27, centre control.
Centre control, send 27.
Yeah, I'll just find some clothes and left hand. I'm going to bring them down to...
Once they'd found the clothes, they rechecked the CCTV.
Him there.
Yeah, he's coming down.
That's him.
Off. Gloves off. Into the bin.
And the hat now.
Yeah.
He's bold.
And he also bore a resemblance to the actor Sean Connery. The pictures were circulated to other police forces.
One afternoon, very shortly after the offence, phone rang in the office, and it was Detective Inspector Mike Jones from Abergavenny Police who informed us that they had a similar robbery that had occurred in Abergavenny only some 4 weeks before.
It was apparent to me that it was the same offender that was responsible for both offences.
Take a look at this. He's in Shrewsbury in Shropshire just under a month ago, holding up a building society. You can see his face clearly, but there's more to come. In a nearby shopping mall, off comes a disguise, hat and gloves into the bin, and what gives him away is that he's completely bald.
We had an excellent response on the evening, which led to two separate people identifying the offender as William Stewart Ford.
They also discovered he had previous convictions for armed robbery, and the last forced to arrest him faxed through his picture.
We received a phone call from Yorkshire, Skipton, from the local CID there, who told us that they had had a robbery, again, with a similar method, similarly described man, exactly the same note. And as soon as we heard this, we were convinced it was our man striking for the third time.
So Crimewatch viewers had named him, but no one knew where he was.
I went to a local news agency with this picture, and the fact that a lot of ladies has described him as a Sean Connery lookalike.
And that made a story for the Daily Star.
William Ford? Yes. I'm arresting you for robbery. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you...
After admitting to an almost identical string of crimes, William Stewart Ford received a mandatory life sentence.
In spring last year, there was a jewellery heist in Leicester's Golden Mile.
All of a sudden, I just heard loud screams and a big, loud smash of a glass sound. And I ran as fast as I could to the front. My first, obviously, priority was go to my father and see how he was first, and then whatever else.
This was the EFIT, which, along with a string of other clues, prompted calls to Crimewatch from all around the Midlands. Several police forces realised they were looking for the same gang, and as a result, when caught on another raid, Atiq Ahmed was charged with a Leicester robbery and got 5 years for each offence.
Trevor Masters was wanted for 9 sex attacks, including rape, but jumped bail in August and was given 12 years in his absence. We had over 60 calls after our appeal in December, and as a direct result of one vital piece of information, officers in France began following a trail of cash withdrawals. That led detectives to the French town of Pau, where Trevor Masters was arrested and is now being held awaiting extradition.
And this is the charmer who befriended a disabled man in Kent. He drained his bank account and stole his car. 30 people volunteered his name, and Mark Tolley was found in Birmingham a few days later. He pleaded guilty to 25 offences and was sentenced to 3 years. But now the elusive gunman who for years terrorised dozens of victims.
Every crime has its ingredients, and all these particular robberies had the same ingredients repeated time and time again. He always had a gun. He would then handcuff all the staff. Now, using handcuffs in a robbery is actually rather rare. Whilst in the shop, he would use very often the same words.
Don't look at my face. Look, done. Don't look at my face.
You know, the gun practically against our heads when he was sort of knelt down next to us, so it's quite scary at that point. After that, really, he just sort of said, I know all your names, I'm part of a big gang, so if you ever testify, you know, we'll come after you.
There was a potential suspect. That was Ian Phelps.
And when you analyse his spending patterns, in very simple terms, when he had no money, robberies were committed, and shortly after robberies you saw substantial sums of money being deposited in his accounts.
We believed we had a strong and compelling case against Phelps. The only problem is we didn't know where he was.
Been holding up travel agents and betting shops, threatening staff with a handgun, and then, and this is very unusual, he handcuffs them. This man may have useful information, Ian Bernard Phelps.
On this occasion, we had no classic phone call saying Phelps is at a certain location, but what we did get were other phone calls that significantly supported our case.
I met him in a nightclub in Bath. We started talking. I felt that I hit it off with him fairly well as a person. At the end of the night, I invited him back for coffee and we chatted. By the next morning, my flatmates had realised that their chequebook and cheque card had gone missing.
One caller has seen him very recently, only a week ago.
Lo and behold, I was watching Crimewatch one evening and Ian's face appeared on the screen. I did feel very bad about actually being so gullible enough to meet such a dodgy character, but I wouldn't have put him down as an armed robber.
As a result of some of those phone calls, and one in particular, our inquiries led us to Edinburgh. We had an indication that he was staying in the Leaf Walk area, or certainly using a particular cafe.
Hello, Mr. Phelps. Who are you? Hampshire CID. You're under arrest on suspicion of armed robbery. Don't struggle, otherwise it's going to hurt.
Can I not finish my lasagna?
That's the least of your problems, mate. Right, we're going to search you. Have you got anything on you you shouldn't have? Nothing?
No.
What are these for?
No comment.
It's a bit like Cinderella and the slipper. We had the keys and we just had to find the door that they fitted. Our colleagues came from Open and Borders, hand out along the street, number 15 Montgomery Street. There was his flat. We found his full robber's kit, if you like. We had the black rucksack with blue streaks in it. We had the handgun, which was as described by victims of his robberies. 7 sets of handcuffs. The makeup stick that he used to conceal the tattoo on his ear. So for us, as I say, it was like hitting the jackpot.
18th, 23rd, 28th of June. There were 3 robberies.
Well, it couldn't have been me then. I'd been involved in a fight in a pub in Bath, and I had a black eye at the time of these robberies. None of the witnesses to any of these crimes have mentioned anything about anybody having a black eye. So, it couldn't have been me. It wasn't me.
If Phelps was able to satisfy the jury that he had a black eye, therefore he couldn't be no robber, then there was a serious risk that all the cases, all the charges may be put in peril. Fortunately, as a result of the Crimewatch appeal, we were able to introduce a witness who could satisfy the court that at that time, Phelps didn't have a black eye and that it was a lie.
How can you be so sure?
He was that close to me.
But you had been drinking. Nightclubs are notoriously dark places.
I'd had a few drinks, but I wasn't drunk. And later in my house, I would have noticed if he'd a black eye.
The jury didn't believe Phelps. He got 14 years for 11 armed robberies.
The last year has seen a fascinating new trend in policing, the routine reopening of old, and sometimes very old, unsolved crimes. They're called cold cases. They need a fresh eye, they need new technology, but they also need new witnesses, which is why detectives come to Crimewatch. Over 30 years ago, in May 1967, a 12-year-old Keith Lyon set off for the shops near Ovingdean in Sussex. He was found stabbed to death. There'd been a group of boys larking about nearby, boys who'd now be men in their 50s. One of them may be the killer. The case was a sensation at the time. Lots of people tried to help, some anonymously, so several people know who was responsible. 34 years on, Keith's family is as desperate as ever to know what happened. 1973, and the biggest murder hunt in Wales. Pauline Floyd and Geraldine Hughes were 16, out on a Saturday night at the Top Rank Club in Swansea. By the time they left, the buses were all full, so they hitched a lift, as was common 30 years ago. They were last seen getting into a light-coloured car.
There's another one, yeah!
Next morning, their bodies were found in undergrowth, not far from their homes in Llandarcy. A light-coloured car had been seen parked nearby. Crimewatch's appeal in January pulled in over 300 calls, but the case is still unsolved. 20 years ago, June 1981, and Marion Croft set out on her bike for band practice in Farnborough in Hampshire. Her route took her down Laffins Road near Aldershot Barracks. When she failed to arrive, her mother and sister set out to find her, and Marion's body was later discovered camouflaged in bushes. With new DNA technology, we can now identify her killer. All we need are names. Marion was 14 when she died. She'd now be 34. Chris, why is this sudden new interest in reopening all these old cases?
Murder investigations never cease. They're always investigated. But we're particularly looking at now at what wasn't available 10 years ago. Witnesses may have kept the faith with their friends and not actually told the truth. We will now go back and look at the viability of those people telling the truth now.
And their allegiance might have changed. They might have made different friends, might be prepared to talk out now.
That's quite correct. Secondly, forensic opportunities. DNA is now available. Other forensic opportunities exist, other advances within the science field. And lastly, mistakes sometimes are made in murder investigations. Sometimes areas are overlooked or not fully explored. We will now go back and look at those areas again.
Intriguingly, you're bringing a lot of old boys out of retirement, old senior investigating officers, to look back at cases, and not look back at their own cases, strangely, but to look at other people's. Why that?
They have skills that are required to review murder investigations. Also allows current officers to be released back to frontline police duties.
Some of these cases were pretty high-profile murders at the time. In fact, some of them are still in the public domain.
They are, and they're still being reinvestigated at the present time.
How confident are you in general? I mean, how many of those that you're reviewing do you think are going to result in a full-scale new investigation and perhaps ultimately prosecution successfully?
Certainly half of those that go back for reinvestigation and are being reviewed will be successful.
As many as that?
Yes. It's my belief that's true.
So if anybody has committed a murder and thought it was the perfect one, they got away with it, actually the chances of you catching up with them even after all this time are pretty good.
Yes, it's substantial. We are reviewing them. Murders are never closed until they're solved.
Be good. I will.
Early last year, we reconstructed how one day in 1977, Mary Gregson left her home in Shipley to go to work. Her body was later recovered from the River Aire. With new techniques, forensic scientists eventually recovered DNA from a tiny sample. 9,000 original suspects were to be swabbed, but after the first 500, they hit the bullseye. Last September, Ian Lowther was sentenced to life.
Coming up, we'll be telling you what these two did. And the armed robber who was caught by CCTV.
Last autumn, a schoolgirl from East London remembered such vivid detail that she presented Crimewatch viewers with enough clues to catch a sex attacker.
Yeah?
Jeffrey Banks.
Yeah?
I'm PC Yeoman from the CID at Chingford. This is DC Ayler.
He was very calm. Very calm. Didn't seem to worry one bit.
Oh, is that thing that was on Crimewatch?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
You do me a favour, could you lift the T-shirt up for me?
to have petrol available at 70% of its filling stations by tomorrow.
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, Dave, all right? Yeah, listen, mate, I ain't going to be able to get in today.
Are you what? It's my busiest day.
No, I'm sorry, Nat, but, you know, something's just come up.
Yeah, all right. I'll tell you what, like, can you do me a favour? In future, give me a bit of notice, eh? See ya.
This morning's headlines. Motorists have been warned to expect big queues at filling stations this weekend.
Well, it was the Saturday morning of the petrol crisis, and she has a little Saturday job. And as she was walking down Larkswood Road, she noticed a car driving towards her. And the driver got out, put a screwdriver to her neck. I think it's all very easy to say, well, she could have run here, she could have run there. Until you've got someone with a screwdriver up at your neck, you don't know how you're going to react. And I honestly think the way she dealt with it saved her life.
Where are we going?
We're going down near Walthamstow.
Why?
I'm going to rape you.
She was looking at the air freshener in the car, all the little things that help us. She still had the presence of mind to try and remember.
Move. Move. Get in there, move over. Shift. Give me that. Get out, get around the back and start pushing.
All that he'd made her go through, and then to make her get out of the car and push it because it wouldn't start. I couldn't believe it. Well, you just think that it's a very nasty individual who I believe needed catching quickly.
Get back in.
Because you never know if he's going to strike again. She was great, she was incredible. She remembered some things which really helped us. His description and the description of the car. The local and the national press coverage, although very good, it had a limited response. Crimewatch was the last throw of the dice.
I can only imagine how terrified she felt as he's dragged her from the car, which he parked quite close behind us. It would have just started raining by the time they got here. It was dark, it's wet, and she must have been absolutely terrified.
The man had a large and unusual scar on his stomach, looking like a shark bite.
I thought that scar was going to be the most useful part. That was very important to us. I was hoping we'd get 3 or 4 names come forward, which we'd be able to research and hopefully would give us a suspect. The reality was that we had a lot more than that. I think we had over 250 calls. We were looking at them saying, that one looks good, that one doesn't. Fortunately, there was one in there which was right, which was the name of Banks. Within a few days of the programme, he was being researched and the package was being sent to the team to go and knock on his door.
There's a very large scar with looked like teeth marks where the stitching was going. So then we've looked at each other and thought, well, hang on, we'll go on from there and take his DNA.
Jeffrey Banks, I'm arresting you on suspicion of rape.
Have we got time for a wash and tidy up first?
What we'll do is we'll follow you up, and whilst we're searching the place, you can have a wash. Jeffrey, what have you got this for?
It's all the plugs in there.
Is it yours?
Yeah.
As we were about ready to leave the flat, he then dropped down on his knees and we thought, you know, it's all going on top here. You know, it's suddenly sunk in that he's going to be taken away, losing liberty. And then we realised just behind him was a heater and he was just trying to dry his hair. That shows you how cool he was.
Someone made a phone call to the Crimewatch programme and named Banks. They didn't wish to give their name or details, and to this day they've remained anonymous. They were vital. They gave us the name of the man who committed this crime. They gave us the lead, so they started the ball rolling, vital to the inquiry.
Jeffrey Banks's DNA was a perfect match, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. After his conviction, it was revealed that he had a long history of violence. The judge commended the police investigation and Crimewatch viewers. If you've been a victim of any sort of crime, there are volunteers now at Victim Support Line. Give them a call. 0845 30 30 900.
Meanwhile, back to where we started, CCTV.
Early morning at Cricklewood, North London. He's pulled on a balaclava and pulled out a knife. But roll the tape back to the beginning. It's hazy, but it's enough for Crimewatch viewers. 3, in fact, put up his name, and Peter Kroll was sent down for 9 years.
Mother's Day last year, and this young man bought flowers for his mum. He has learning difficulties, but he leads a fairly independent life. At West Norwood Station in London, 2 men seemed to befriend him, then walked him round a corner, tried to rob him, and threw bricks at his face. His eye socket was broken, and he needed surgery to install a metal plate. We ran this footage last September, and next day, Jason Stone turned himself in. Other viewers named David Turner, and each then blamed the other for the attack. Both were convicted of attempted robbery. David Turner got 3 years. Jason Stone was also found guilty of GBH with intent and was sent to prison for 7 years.
Of course, we want to thank all the viewers who rang on all the cases, and all the others who would have helped if they could. There's a lot more good than bad out there.
So don't have nightmares, do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.